What is up, everybody? We are back after a week off. Apologize, we all had some stuff going on, but welcome to another episode of Real Estate Served on the Rocks. My name is Charlie Sardelli, and as always, I'm here with
Jameson Amaros,
Oscar Ibarra.
And today we are going to kind of bring it back down a little bit for everybody. And what we want to cover for you guys is basically the buying process. And just as a quick reminder for everybody, on our channel, if you go into our links, we do provide you a home buyer's guide. And if you guys want to download it, that's actually kind of what we're going to be going through today.
I need to upload mine. I have both home, buyers and sellers.
Yeah.
And it's something that we were here talking about, that no one's exempt from the process.
Yep.
Just follow the process and everything be
Exactly.
unless you're the 76ers. That was their whole thing, and they got bounced. And,
that team, the firing coaches.
Doc Rivers just got fired.
That's
Right?
what I'm saying.
Doc
But
Rivers
Embiid
was fired.
Embiid said, just trust the process. They didn't trust the process.
If the Celtics don't go at least to the finals, that team's going to be disassembled too. Mm-hmm. They're done.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so.
Well, and guys, remember...
And bring on Tatum. We'll take Tatum. Nuggets will take Tatum all day long.
Remember, we post our videos weekly. Every Monday to Wednesday, you'll catch the video. Every Friday, we post our audio. Remember, you can subscribe to our channel, Living in Colorado, the Mile High Perspective. And again, guys, please check the time codes. I know that episodes can go a little long, but every single episode that we have has time codes involved, so you can get right to the information that you want. Mm-hmm. And we're more than happy to help you guys out. So comment, like, share, send us a message. We want to help you guys. It's why we do this, right?
Yeah, Charlie, if they haven't watched the podcast before, what are we about?
We are 3 Colorado-based realtors that are bringing real estate knowledge to the consumer.
We're a TED Talk.
Pretty much the whole time.
Nah, fuck that. We're not a TED Talk.
Just
We're
real weird.
but
None of us are named Ted.
Well,
yeah, none of us are named Ted. We drink
We do
bourbon.
talk.
We give you good facts and information. We try to keep it light and funny. I mean,
and that's honestly the biggest thing, right? Is we're not just all real estate. We're not just all business all the time. We enjoy drinking bourbon, and we got this idea specifically because sitting around talking about real estate while drinking bourbon, and we're like, wait a second, this is good information, and we can provide this to the people. So today's bourbon is actually really interesting. I don't know about you guys, but for me, I'm very much a visual person, and this bottle grabbed my eye.
Gangster.
Immediately.
Gangster.
Immediately. The black tailoring into the color of the bourbon. I don't know why I like it so
murdered out,
much.
Baby.
Yeah. Burnt? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like a
it's
burnt
fancy.
Out. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. And today's bourbon is called New Riff, and it is bottled in bond, but it is going to be a higher rye mash bill, basically. So,
Correct.
Jameson, give us some info on it.
Man, there's a lot of info to give on this whiskey. So every time something's bottled in bond, obviously it's held to the highest standard of the U.S. federal government as far as what can go into it, how long it needs to be aged, where it needs to be aged, all those different things. The first thing about New Riff is no matter what bourbon you choose from them, whether it's the rye, the single barrel select, or just our bourbon here, it is aged for a minimum of 4 years. They also use no-chill filtration, and they are very, very, very particular on their distillery and the methodology that goes into it. So anywhere that the mash bill is either heated up or starts to distillate, it is only touching copper. And the reason it's only touching copper is because they don't want any other particulates to come in and infiltrate and tarnish the aging process. So they've got some things in the works that are going to be 15, 20-year barrels that are going to taste phenomenal when they come of age, because any time that this heats up or starts to distillate, it's only touching copper. So
See,
kind of cool.
and I love it because obviously we've done episodes where we've had the biochemist that goes to see it and starts making it. But I like what it says on the back of the bottle here. It says a new riff on an old tradition.
Yep.
So not only a wordplay, which I'm all for a wordplay, but that's exactly what it is. Like
Yes.
they're taking new ideas and applying it. And again, this is the only way that we grow, right? And it's really interesting because a lot of bourbon purists would probably look at this and be like, this isn't bourbon. Just because it's not done this way. It's like, hey, man.
I mean, it is. They do a couple new things, but I think this is fitting for today's conversation.
Yes.
Because they are all about the very
process.
specific process, down to they chose a specific aquifer within the hills of Kentucky. They drilled a 100-foot well down in there. That aquifer stays at 58 degrees all year round.
So this is dinosaur water?
It is essentially dinosaur water.
Yeah.
And they chose it because it is in this very rich limestone and mineral cavern, essentially, that this aquifer runs through. Okay. So you get a lot of these different minerals that come up with the water, and that's what they start with.
A lot of the flavoring of the bourbon that comes out of Kentucky, all of it. It's the limestone and the minerals that go into the water.
Yeah, that's a huge thing.
That's a huge thing
yeah.
there. Mm-hmm. They talk about it on a lot of the bourbons that we drink.
Absolutely. And I mean, I didn't realize before we started looking into these bourbons, like that limestone was such a key element in the distilling process. So, I mean, again, from the bottle, just the story of it, how it's made, I think it's going to be pretty good. I'm excited, and I'm glad I poured it out. I will say though, just looking at it,
it's a dark tint.
Yeah, you can
it's
tell
a very
that.
Dark tint.
You can tell that this rye.
Excuse me, everybody. I don't even have my notepad today. This week has been crazy. I'm not a podcaster. I'm a realtor. I was doing realtor stuff all week. I've been busy with real estate.
I think all of us have just been consumed.
Yes.
This week with deals.
It's been a week.
Well, and that's why we want to talk about this process because it's heating up. It's coming back.
And I think sticking on topic, the process is gonna. I'm going to bounce back and forth from the process from the consumer standpoint and from the real estate standpoint, just because, again, we're given information for a proper vetting of a real estate agent. And unfortunately, I had a few deals this week that the agents weren't up to par, and I had a heyday in my office, and I was screaming and pouting, and it was what it was.
I think we all had that this week.
And you would think, being an agent, you know the process, you know what it takes, you know what contracts to write, how to write contracts, and keeping them clean. And right now, my biggest gripe is ego and competence, or lack of confidence. And it's aggravating for me. So that's a little bit on the topic that we're going to talk about.
It's also why we don't just talk about real estate on this podcast. We drink during it.
That's right.
Because more often than not, I will come home from a very long day and be like, today's the day that I'm not going to pour a glass of whiskey. And then something happens
and then
that
you get a
fucks
text
up
and
my
you're
day.
like, where the fuck is my
and I go,
bourbon?
today is now not that day.
Well,
and
I have
therefore,
not been drinking. I've gone 2 weeks that the pours here are the only thing that I drink, just because, again, I'm supposed to be doing a half marathon that I've only ran maybe 4 times, and my wife's been running for like a year and a half now. But
and I'll tell you, I have a really good example of bourbon in general, right? My uncle is a cigar smoker, cigar aficionado, part owner of a club and everything. So when I was home, last week, we had a party for my sister's graduation, and my grandmother came out, and we were smoking cigars and having a drink, and she goes, "Oh, so you're on a mini vacation?" And I was like, "Wait, where have I heard that before?" And she just goes, "Yeah, that's what your uncle calls smoking a cigar, is going on a mini vacation." And that is a perfect example as to why people drink bourbon, is it gives you that 2-ounce timing of just disappearing for a little bit.
Or 4 ounce, or 6 ounce,
1.75,
or 1.75.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, sometimes
It just really
goes-
depends
or
on
0.750.
how
I think
much
that's what
PTO you want to use, I think, is what it comes down
And
to.
you know what? It's at one point in time, this was prescribed. They were prescribing it back in the day, and it's very effective.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well,
Or
I will
fortunately.
say off the rip, the
the
scent
riff?
on this.
Off the riff or
off
rip?
off the
off the
riff.
riff.
Oh, that was good. I like it. I will say.
I have no tasting notes on this, by the way, so this is going to be 100% interpretation.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's good with me. I mean, on the nose originally, it's very, very sweet forward. I would not, by the smell, I would not think that this was a high rye mash.
And you know what's funny? Because I haven't been drinking, the alcohol burn is back when I smell it.
Yeah.
It's burning my nose right now.
it doesn't linger, though.
It doesn't.
No,
but
it's
I
just
could
real
feel
quick,
it.
and then it fades.
I mean,
Yep.
we were, obviously I do my social drinking or whatever, and then we come do this, and I haven't really been drinking, but the burn, I could feel it in the nostrils.
Whatever. You drank in the Nuggets game. Don't lie.
Yeah, I did.
Had a little bit of fun.
I did.
I've been to a couple Nuggets games.
Shout out to bartenders down there. Love you guys.
Well, cheers, gentlemen. Let's go ahead and get
Cheers.
these first sips in.
Speaking of the Nuggets, they play tonight.
I know, 6:30.
I will be there.
I will not.
I'm telling you that nose is. Hold on, you gotta do it like that guy. Oh shit! Don't do it
We
like
gotta
that
do
guy.
the video. We gotta do that video. Prepare.
The nose is harsh. It is sweeter.
I'm definitely getting honey.
Apricots. I'm getting fruit,
Yep.
dried fruit. All right, that's enough sticking my nose in here.
Up front immediately, not very much complexity to the flavor. Definitely a high rye, a little bit hotter, a little
I
bit
get some
spicy.
charcoal at the end, though.
I
Like
get
it's sweeter,
Yeah.
Like I get some vanilla, and then it kind of melts away quickly. But then the aftertaste is a little bit. You can feel the. You can taste that they use toasted oak barrels 100% of the time. I can taste that for a 4-year age.
I'm definitely getting the pepper that you usually get the
Here we go.
spice.
And I'm not joking around. All jokes aside, it's very dry fruit forward. But the lingering, I'm getting original Doritos.
Original Doritos.
It finishes with that weird, corny, cheesy kind of.
Man, I need some Doritos now.
Oscar,
Seriously,
we're gonna do a
weird.
whole. We're just gonna do
Just
a
a
whole
cutaway of horse manure
series of
Doritos.
Oscar's descriptions. We got manure. We got
Herbaceous
Doritos.
Doritos.
I got Doritos on that one.
That's
Like
awesome.
this tastes like my grandma's casserole at the very end. It's very weird. I don't know if it's the green bean casserole or the squash, but
Hot
it's in
plate from
there.
Minnesota.
I think this one once it opens up a little bit more, I think that burn's gonna subside a little bit. We're gonna get a good amount of flavor.
Let it linger, and tell me you don't have Doritos. And if so, I gotta go back.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I haven't had Doritos in so long.
Me either, but that's what this.
Apparently, Papa John's
and it's
is
not
making
Cool Ranch. It's original.
Yeah,
apparently
'cause
Papa John's is making
I
a
also
new
need some.
a new pizza where the crust tastes like Doritos.
What is,
America, baby.
What is this world coming to?
America.
Hey, Somali, how you doing? We need food. Cool. We have Dorito pizza, bitch.
Jesus.
And we have. For me, it was when the Reese Big Cups got mini Reese's Pieces put in the big cups.
Yeah.
That's when it's
Reese's Pieces Inception.
Yes.
Oh,
Reese's.
I used to love those.
Yes.
And sixlets.
I'm still not on the chocolate thing.
I still
So
don't
let's
know why they
not.
called them sixlets.
Let's not destroy
Hey,
my
also,
soul
can we
here.
just call to attention real quick? I know if you're listening to this, you can't see us, but somehow
coordination, baby?
we.
The blue
Yeah,
is on the mind.
I don't know what it was, but we had
aqua
this
blue.
aqua blue with the blue with the teal or the
aquifer.
blue jeans. I don't know what happened. I like it.
We're out here looking good, baby.
Yeah.
I like
I
it.
got some booze in my socks.
Yeah, I mean Oscar with the socks every
I
time.
got some cheetah prints.
Every time. All right, so like we said, with the market heating up, the topic that we kind of wanted to go over with you guys, especially because this is kind of a read-along on this episode, is feel free, like I said in the description, go download our buyer's guide. We have 7 points that we're going to touch, and it's really common for buyer's guides to kind of cover the points that we're going to go over, but feel free, download it, pour up a glass, and kind of follow along with us. But again, if you don't want to watch through the whole thing, click on our time codes and go exactly where you want to go.
And as a disclaimer, for those of you out there not fortunate enough to work with us, if you are, as we talk about vetting realtors, right? If you guys are working with a realtor on the buy side, and let's say you get them off of Zillow or Redfin or one other stupid site that you guys get them off of, versus recommendations and vetting, I don't have a personal opinion on that at all. If they are not going over some sort of buyer's guide with you before the process starts, that is a very, very large red flag.
Yes.
Unless they've
Flashing.
been doing it for way too fucking long to care. That's
True,
happened.
but even
No.
at that, you don't want
You know
that,
what?
guys.
Bullshit. I know if I sat down with you, Oscar, you would sit there and be like, "Hey, man, so what? Here's what the process looks
I
like."
will.
And now we're
it's
gonna
just
Send
second
an entire
nature.
packet.
At that point, it's and I do email my thing, but it's just second nature.
Yeah.
It is, and again, I've always said, work with an agent that you're gonna like and want to spend some time with.
Yep.
But lately, you know, how we make our money is not opening doors. Anybody could open a door.
Yeah.
Anybody could write an
It depends
offer.
on the lockbox
Yeah,
I've
true.
seen some,
and
yeah.
or the doorknob.
or the doorknob.
Jiggle that shit, put the key, wiggle, open the fucking door.
Kick
okay?
it, do whatever you gotta
Kick
do.
the damn door in. No,
SWAT
but,
team. SWAT
but
team realtors.
Confidence has been my biggest issue
Oh my god,
as
that's
of
such
late.
a good name for. I'm gonna trademark that
SWAT team realtors.
SWAT team realtors.
It's a good shirt.
because it's
Is it like
breaking.
tap
It's
out?
breaking into. You know what I'm saying? Like you're breaking into people's
Wordplay.
houses.
You saw it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Do not
So
steal.
anyway,
Trademarked.
competency, right? That's where we earn our navigation of the process to get to close.
Yep.
If they can't do that, that's where we earn. That's when we earn our money.
But that's why the buyer. That's why this episode's so important, is because in my opinion, anyway, there's such a large part of this job that is based on setting correct expectations.
Yes.
And to me, not being able to articulate what a process looks like to a consumer, especially a consumer that maybe have never bought a house before, is so important, because that fuels every other aspect, from the stress to the unknowns to the hurdles you have to jump to the potential contingencies, all these different things. But if we can sit down with you guys and go over, hey, here's what the process looks like. Here's some of the common things that we see. Here's some things that you can either do previous to get prepared for or be prepared for during the actual transaction itself. It makes it obviously easier on us, right? Because we're not chasing our tails. But from a buyer standpoint, You guys are going in knowing exactly what to expect every single step of the way.
And from a consumer standpoint, I like for my client to be stress-free if possible.
That's our job. It's the whole
Every
point of
file
us.
is going to have its own stresses, and it's hard for me.
Hence
I
this
don't
week.
want to articulate what can go wrong. I don't want to start off the transaction that way, but that's where we earn our money, is knowing how to navigate through that and come out unscathed.
Yep, 100%.
And again, I mean, that's what I'm good at.
Well, and that's a good kind of lead in to the first point. And what a lot of people think is when you first start looking for a home, you're thinking about buying, everybody, you know, I would say 75% of the people that I start talking to, they're already telling me about how many rooms they want, the bedrooms, what they want them to look like. I'm like, wait a second, how are you going to pay for this? Right? And I think the very important thing that, you know, we've drilled at home is knowing your budget is the most important. But the first step to the home buying process is going to be pre-approval, is going to be your financing, right? Because at the end of the day, if you don't know how much you can afford every month, it doesn't matter what house you like, doesn't matter how many rooms you want, you're not going to be able to afford it unless you know.
And we have to fine tune that. I don't care if my client's qualified for $1 million.
Yep.
If they're not comfortable paying that amount of money, okay, we have to have a sit down. Where are you comfortable? Well, that's going to take a chunk. We're going to look at, $500,000 to $600,000. And if that's not what you're looking for, okay, let's get out of your comfort zone, but I want you to make that decision.
Well, and that's the most important part with the pre-approval, right? And I think something that happens a lot with people is when we start saying to them like, hey, you need to start looking into a loan, that's when it gets real for them. And they go, wait a second, this is tangible, this is money. And we've said it on multiple podcasts. We've had Colin in here, we've had Devin in here, all of our lenders, but a lender is such a phenomenal service to have as even just a home buyer, if not a first-time home buyer, because one of the most important parts of getting a pre-approval that people don't think about is looking at your financing and figuring out your budgeting. Because a lot of people don't really know how to do that. And a lot of people want, and we just got done talking about this, the instant gratification. Oh, I'm going to get a pre-approval letter, then I'm going to apply for a house, I'm going to get it. And it's like, hold on, let's let this lender get in on your financial information, and we may have to wait 4 to 6 months because you have to work on your credit. You might have to build your credit back up to a point where you're going to qualify for something that's going to help you.
Or you qualify, right? But your DTI is at 50%.
Yep.
And then let's say, okay, that's because we talk about it from a mortgage payment standpoint. That's one side of the equation, right? And Oscar can talk about this, but I mean, there's FHA. You can go up to 50, 52%, 55% DTI, right? Debt to income.
Yep.
The problem is we want to make sure that not only are you comfortable with the fact that your mortgage payment is going to be X amount, but if our debt to income qualification is that high for a certain person, you got to remember, when lenders take your application, they do minimum payments on everything, right? So if you pay $300 a month to your credit card, that you've got an $8,000 balance, but your minimum payment's $150, and you're still planning on paying $300, that's $150 extra a month we have to factor in.
And I hate to use this term. I hate it. House poor.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
I hate that
100%.
term. I hate that term. I'd rather use something else, but I don't want you to be stressed out because you have to make your mortgage payment.
Yeah.
That's never fun either.
My mom used to say, like, if I asked for like thirds for dinner, she'd say my eyes are bigger than my stomach.
Yep.
Same thing, right?
Absolutely.
Or champagne taste, beer budget.
Right.
I mean, there's a ton of things we could go.
Well, how many times have you talked to a first time home buyer and they go, okay, I want a $500,000 house, right? Because $500,000 in their historical terms sounds affordable, right? And $500,000 at 3.5%, 4%, it's one story. At 6.5%, 7%, completely different.
Yep.
And if they have an image in their brain of what $500,000 gets them, based on their monthly budget, and then you go, well, actually, based on your monthly budget, it's like $350 to $400. That changes the equation, right?
100%.
And that's why that pre-approval step and working with a lender that is communicative, that understands what they're doing, has a history of success, is so important.
So yes, getting financing is key to moving forward, and there's a lot of conversation we have to have with consumer. Although it is in my past wheelhouse, and I try not to infiltrate too much into that.
We stay in our lane.
We stay in our lane for the most part. That's
we
the
can
best
give
thing.
advice,
As a
but we stay in
realtor,
our lane.
we have to, but we have to make these, have these conversations with you. How much do you actually want to pay a month? So I can have this conversation with their lender, so you don't have to. And I'm not sending you stuff that we're not going to offer on, you're going to fall in love with, and then hate me afterwards and call me in 2 years. You know what? I got to sell. You know?
Absolutely. Well, and another point that I want to bring up too, especially because I feel like interstate migration in the United States has picked up recently. Like people are looking to move state to state. And something that's it is important with the pre-approval as well as setting your budget is, like I said, I was in North Carolina last week. I was talking to a friend, and she was blown away at the fact that she was about to pay $275 for a house.
And you were like, I'll take 3.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, are you kidding me?
So is that the rental market that we're jumping into together?
No, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
I mean, how far is Hogs Head or what's that golf course?
Hilton Head.
Hilton Head.
Yeah.
How far is that from there? Because I'll take 3.
Dude, have you golfed? Sorry, this is total side note. Have you golfed at Hilton Head?
No.
Oh my
I've
God,
heard
I got to
about
do
it.
it once.
Oh.
About 4 years ago. It is gorgeous.
Yeah.
I want to.
If you guys get to go to Hilton Head, go. It's
And
amazing.
It's just such an important point that as long as you know your budget, whether you're going to be in North Carolina, or you're going to be in Colorado, whether you're Wyoming, whatever it is,
Jersey,
having that monthly budget is the most important aspect of that.
Well, it's all relative, right? Like if you talk about certain parts of North Carolina from a job standpoint, your median income, like take Douglas County, right? Our median income in Douglas County is over 100 per household.
Yep.
It was over $130,000 a year in Douglas County. Mm-hmm. If I go to Raleigh, North Carolina, and say, hey, guess what our median income is? I would venture to guess that it's double.
I'm gonna go ahead
Right?
and say that I can't. I'm not allowed in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Well, I mean, even where I come from, Western North Carolina, I was making, as a bartender, I was making $48,000. I was a king, making $48,000. My rent was $800 a month, and I split it with somebody. So like that's why your finances are so important. But once you're done with that pre-approval, you talk with your lender. The next step, now that you know your budget, is going to be home search.
And please don't hesitate to have those conversations. We're not going to judge. The more we know, the better we could structure for you. Mm-hmm. We're not judging you on your income. We're not judging you on your spending. We're not judging you on your credit. We're not judging you on what you have on credit. I don't care. My job is to make sure that you're taken care of. So the more I know, the better I could structure something for you.
Not only that, Oscar brings up a really important point. Not only do we not judge, right, because it's our job, but if you sign a buyer's agreement with us, we are now your fiduciary, which means we cannot do anything that is not in the interest of you as our client, including divulging financial information or
Doesn't leave the table.
Does not leave the table. It's essentially the same as client data privilege in any other
At this point,
job. And again, it's a licensed and it's regulated, so it's the same. I can't sit there and you say, "Hey, I've got this," and then I can tell that to somebody else. I can't. No. That's
and
literally
what's
not
funny
allowed.
is at this juncture in my career, I have family members sending over other family members, right? Mm-hmm. And they'll call me. So how's Tom's deal going? Good.
Yep. It's going well.
Has he found a house? We're still looking. Mm-hmm. How's it? I can't.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I love you, but I can't.
Not until.
Ask him. Ask him how it's going. We cannot divulge information.
And we understand that it's hard, right? Because especially when you're talking first time home buyers,
parents want to know.
I know.
And I'm sorry, I can't
do it.
Ask them.
Yep.
Well, I'm
giving a down payment. You're still
no.
not my
You gifted the down payment.
Yes.
Thank you. You're not privy to information just because you gave us a gift. It is what it is.
100%.
I want you guys to understand that because there's a lot of people that, and I've run into it with clients where they are afraid to divulge certain things, and then as we get into the transaction, all of a sudden I found out something else, and then I find out something else, and then I find out something else, and had all that information been disclosed in the beginning,
structure it better,
then all of a sudden we're good, right?
Start checking stuff off before we get to the meat and bones.
Don't be afraid. Client data privilege. We're a fiduciary.
Like
we
doctors.
can't. Yes.
I'm like a priest. Not really.
Well, because somebody goes, please, for the love of God, help me find a house
yes.
that I can afford in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
So
and then
it shall be. So it shall be.
In him, with him, through him.
So after you get the budget, obviously now
You got to watch some Mighty Gemstones. You had to throw it out there on HBO. The Gracious Gemstones.
Oh, yeah.
It is hilarious. Love that show. I love to say it's satire.
That's what happens when we all dress the same.
Yeah. Just on the same path, baby.
And
So
some crackers
once
and
you
some
get that
wine,
pre-approval and you know how much you're going to be spending, then this is when you want to start building the bare bones of the homes that you want to search for, right? And what's really important about the home search is remember that you're not going to find a needle in the haystack right away. Like
maybe
you
might, but
the chances of that, right? So going into that home search, I would say start at your base level. Know how many bedrooms you want. Know the square footage that you want. If you want a garage, HOA, those kinds of things. But now, once you start kind of tailoring it and you go for a search, you start looking, that is your opportunity to then start to find your needle in the haystack.
You start funneling down. This is a conversation I have. We're going to broaden the search, maybe a little outside of your perimeter. You're going to get everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. Let's start off big because I'd rather you not miss out on something.
Yep.
And then as we go, you're going to start checking stuff off. All right, I could do without this. I really don't like that neighborhood. Maybe, you know what, I do need a 2-car garage. Then we start fine-tuning it to where, like, within a mile radius, if not a quarter mile, of apples and apples, the house that you want.
Yeah.
And then we just wait and find it.
Yeah, and I think the other important thing to consider, too, is it depends on where the market's at, right? So, like, right now, we have in April...
4 houses on the market?
Yeah. In April this year, compared to last year, we had almost 1,900 less new listings. That's big, right?
And,
in Colorado.
and the trend right now, and again, I don't know, I'm not working with, well, maybe working with some of you out there, but the majority of you, I'm not. So this is not me trying to oversell you, but I believe from February into April, we were up 3% in purchase price. So that
Correct.
means the market's trending up.
Yep.
I'm not trying to tell you if you're wanting to buy, hurry up and buy now, but you should probably
Start paying attention.
It's just one of those-
maybe this summer it's gonna cost you more to buy.
Yeah,
and it's gonna be at the same interest rate.
Yeah, and we've talked about this in previous episodes as far as housing market updates and whatnot, where depending on where interest rates go, it's going to either loosen or tighten inventory.
Yep.
Right now we have tight inventory, and as long as that is the case, when Oscar says, "Hey, we want to start large," and over a vast, whether it's a geographic area, whether it's a price point area, right? Let's say you're comfortable at 350. Okay, we get this question a lot. Let's say you're approved to 450, but you're comfortable at 350. Why would I show you 450?
Yep.
Is it because I'm trying to get you to buy something more expensive? No.
But how many times did the client say, "Hey,
It's
what about
not.
this house?" Well,
Right.
that house is a 425.
Yes,
had
we
this
just want to
conversation.
make sure that you guys see as much as you possibly can to make a decision. And in a environment and a market that is severely constrained on inventory, we're going to want to widen the search as much as humanly possible.
Yep.
Because there's just not a ton of options.
Well,
right now.
and then that brings up another point, and I mentioned it earlier, but something that is so important when you're looking for your home is showings, right? And it comes down to the adage of, the more at bats, the better opportunity you get, right?
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Exactly. So whether or not you're
mentality.
100% on this home, having multiple showings and walking through these houses that fit this broader parameter will help you tailor down and figure out what you want so much more. And here's the thing, guys.
It might even change your mind.
Exactly. But here's the thing. You have agents, right? And I just did a video on open houses on my TikTok, and what people, open houses we've talked about, a good, bad, whatever it is, open houses are there for people who don't have agents to just walk in and see a house. If you don't have
Neighbors
an agent,
who don't have agents.
Yeah, neighbors, excuse me. That's mostly what you get. But
Neighbors that have been wondering what the hell you've been doing in your basement.
yeah, and if you have an agent, you can schedule a showing damn near any time that you want, as long as the seller's open to that timing. And that is, again, where the importance of an agent comes in the fact that they can 100% get you access to homes and showings that you wouldn't have previously. You could do it on a Wednesday night at 8 p.m. as long as the seller's down with it. But that is a benefit of having a real estate agent or a realtor that is willing to give you that time.
Without being bombarded. Because if you try to set up a showing with an agent that you don't know, are you qualified? And they start asking you all these questions. No, I just want to see the house. So as an agent here in Colorado, we are technically able to show any home in the state.
Yep.
Doesn't mean we're the experts there. I mean, I've shown homes.
I'm about to go show some empty lots up in Routt County.
All right,
Yep.
don't
South
you
of Steamboat.
mention the city. Not this episode. Don't do it. Don't do it. I've shown anywhere from the Western Slopes, Rifle, and I've been in Denver Metro. I work.
We
a lot,
don't talk about Hugo.
That was good.
Hugo, Colorado. I don't know why I've sold like 4 or 5 houses in that little town. There's only like 10, and I've sold 4. But I do a lot of stuff in Weld County. I do a lot of ranches, so I'm well versed in wells and septic tanks, septic certificates.
Hey,
all
I
that
want
kind of stuff.
So am I. Yeah, we're all. There's a lot of intricacies, right?
Yes,
A lot of intricacies.
Mountains is even crazier.
They're all crazy, dude.
Mountain's
So in
crazy.
Routt County, they don't have septic because they're too far out, right? So I was actually just talking to one of my friends.
Topography.
One of my
You don't know
friends.
what the hell the topography of the
was,
land
hey,
is.
they already have a house up there, right? They have a septic tank. It's different than a septic system. So they physically have to pump it every 3 months. Yeah. The problem is nobody can go out there because of where they're at. It was supposed to be a 300 some odd house development, and the developer that bought it went bankrupt. They were supposed to put a ski resort in, nothing, right? So the plans are huge. They're looking at some lots up there. I just talked to them the other day. And one of the issues is, yeah, you can build a house there and you can have a septic tank, but you can only pump it, which is a pain. By the way, it's like $300-$400 every single time.
Yeah.
If you're renting it out, it's even more depending on how. So there's a lot of intricacies when it comes to showing houses.
And not only that,
even the wells when you're doing inspections. I mean, a lot of people just do the potability,
yes,
right? Because that's what you want. Because there's going to be like bacteria and stuff in the water, and then you have to do a flush and what that is about.
Something that, and on both of those
and then
points,
there's a mechanical part of it.
something that we don't think about is, as Americans, we're very privileged to think that anywhere in the country that you go, you're set up to live. But there are still many, many areas, even in Colorado, that don't have water run. They don't have septic. So again, doing these showings and having an agent that can look around and know these areas is so vital to your home search. Now, once you kind of tailor in and you start looking at the homes.
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing I am going to say, because I feel like this is, one, underrepresented. Two, I get asked all the time when we're showing homes, neighborhoods, etc. Oscar, is this a good neighborhood?
Oh.
I'm not allowed to give you my personal opinion as a realtor, but I'm going to take my real estate hat off. Yeah, can we do that?
Hey, Oscar, just out of curiosity, are there sex offenders that live in this neighborhood? Because I really like this house.
That question. That's not information that is privy to us. You go on a website, go to the sheriff's department, and ask what sex offenders are here. They'll give you a full report.
Hey, Oscar, so I got 7-year-old and 10-year-old going to middle school. How are the schools?
www.schoolgrades.com will give you a better understanding. I could tell you what I have on the houses, but I am not an expert in what schools are. I know what counties have good schools, but do your own research on that.
But listen, so I'm moving here from Puerto Rico. I'm looking for a Puerto Rican-based neighborhood.
Well, I'm sorry, man.
Hablo español, pero out of that,
I'm sorry,
I'm
man.
gonna tell you.
I can't guide you to certain areas based on race.
But I need really good mofongo. You don't understand.
So there's a restaurant down off of Union and Alameda that have great mofongo.
So here's the reason I bring that up. Thank you guys for playing along.
Yep.
Is there's a lot of people that still don't quite understand. Like there's certain questions in order to preserve fair housing laws that we cannot answer.
Redlining.
We are more than willing to provide you the resources. Right?
There was a time where it was a thing.
Yes.
So they made laws against it.
Yes.
Yep.
So
100%.
if
Blockbusting is what
Yes.
you're talking about,
Yep.
and redlining.
Yep. So if you're asking these questions of your realtor and they're being, I don't know, you could define it as cagey or evasive or whatever it is, there's a difference, right? I can be cagey and evasive, or I can be cagey and evasive but provide you resources and materials so you can make an informed decision yourself. Mm-hmm. It's not that we don't know the area, right? I know my own personal opinion on Douglas County schools versus Jeffco versus Denver Public Schools, whatever it is, right?
I know my information on the school.
Exactly.
I know where to get good mofongo.
When it comes to, anyway, we'll talk later. That should have been in the brown bag episode. When it comes to steering somebody to a certain area based on those things, we can't do it because we want to give every area of the state
And that's actually a term,
the
steering.
opportunity to bring in.
If your agent is telling you want to live here because guess what? It's called steering.
Yes.
Yeah.
He get in trouble.
But it is something that comes up every single time I work with a
agents
buyer.
might think they're doing them a favor, and
Absolutely.
if it makes you uncomfortable, that's
So,
against.
yeah, just something to point out
bylaws.
before we move on to the next step.
That's a
but
phenomenal point,
it is,
especially in today's ecosystem and
Yes.
stuff like that. That is definitely something that needs to be addressed.
Yep.
So, hell yeah, thank you for bringing that up, JMO.
We don't talk about Hugo.
So we got
Hugo's
the
a great place to
pre-approval.
live.
We got the
That's not.
pre-approval. We started looking.
I'm not
at,
wearing my real estate hat right now. Hugo's not big. It's a one-street town. Lots of truckers. And I stand out like a sore thumb every time I'm in the fucking city. Great people, though.
But now we got the home search down. We started looking, and we found one or couple that we like. And we want to start actually looking seriously and maybe talking about putting in some offers. So the next step on the list is offers and negotiations, right? And this is honestly where you see a lot of people talking, about, I don't need an agent. Real estate agents aren't necessary.
Would you go to court without an attorney? Can
Exactly.
you? Yes, 100%. Is it wise? He who represents himself has a client for an idiot, I think it goes.
Something like that.
I've
Something like
been
that.
drinking
But,
bourbon,
at the end of the day, my whole point in saying that is this is where the real estate agent and them being your fiduciary really plays into your pocket and your abilities in the market.
And
Right?
writing a clean offer is key right now. And that's why I was griping at the beginning. Ego and competency go hand in hand when writing a goddamn offer.
Well-
You give me an offer that has a bunch of NAs, guess what? You're in some legal trouble because I'm not going to clean them up for you, and you just omitted a very important part of your client's offer.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be like, this is trash. This other offer is equal, but it's clean.
Correct. So, and that's a good point, right? Because because negotiations are different, right? It's a people-to-people
Yes.
interaction,
Yes.
and you
It's a
essentially
chess
have
game.
You've got four parties, right? You've got the
takes
buyer
a
that
skill.
wants what they want, the seller that wants to get what they want. You've got the buyer's agent that
But we
wants
have
to
the
close.
same end goal.
No, totally get it. But there's
Right.
still four parties to every transaction.
Yes.
And that's what people don't necessarily realize, right? It's four parties, it's two individual entities that are trying to get to the closing table, and then two other individual entities that are trying to facilitate that, right? So when Oscar talks about ego, that's part of it, right? Like if I look at an offer and it's poorly written, what am I going to, in a fiduciary standpoint, tell my client about my confidence of this offer getting to close in comparison to a similar offer that is written well, right? It's gonna have an effect.
Yeah.
The other
And
piece,
when I talk about ego, it's not only the agent's ego, but the homeowner's ego.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I know you love your house, but here are the facts and the data I have, and I'm on your side. I'm up to bat for you. I work for you. Please know that. But it is my job to bring all the facts to you. You make the final choice. If we go down to the ship, I'm going down with the ship with you. But these are the facts. Ego there, but then ego from agent to agent. I want to look like a hero. I know more than him. No. As soon as your agent wants to go in like that, it's going to be a rocky transaction.
well, and I think that's the fun part about this job for me, right? Is there is when I'm like if Oscar is representing the seller and I'm representing the buyer, right, and we're negotiating a deal on a house, I have always been just in my life I have a very collaborative mindset.
Oh, yeah.
With the emphasis on I want to get the best deal for my buyer. If you can have two agents that are working towards those goals, great, right?
Yep.
But if there's an ego agent,
Yeah.
the end of the day is the ego is dangerous because it tends to supersede what's best for the client, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
for example,
Absolutely.
we had, I was dealing with a contract negotiation 2 weeks ago, somewhere around there, at what I would consider an overpriced unit, right? And
You would consider?
everybody
I
would.
fucking
Everybody
considered
would.
that shit.
but
That was
hey,
a horrible, horrible
you know
overpriced.
who didn't consider it overpriced? The seller
agent.
and the seller's agent, right? And in my head, I'm looking directly at the people that say we're just in it for the money. So if you're that person, as far as real estate agents make too much and blah blah blah, this is for you. We were about $250,000 away from where the list price was and where we wanted to offer. Okay. If I was in it for the money, I would have spent all of my time and energy explaining to my buyer why the purchase price should be the list price, because I make more money if that's the case.
Convincing
Right?
the client.
But this is what ended up happening. We go through and do some market research. I collaborated with some individuals that I work with to make sure I didn't sound crazy. And when we got to the point of offering, I told my client what my opinion of value was on that property. They agreed. We submitted that offer. It didn't get even looked at, essentially.
And how long has that been sitting on?
127 days,
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
Ego,
right?
example.
So it's ego, right? The property's been there for 127 days, not sold.
be there
right?
for a lot longer than
It's going to be there for a lot longer. But I am not willing to go to my client and say, hey, I understand you really want this house. They're not going to budge, so let's just offer.
Yeah, no.
Let's offer it list, right? Yeah. Will I make more money on $200,000? Hell yeah, I would. Is it the best for my client? And do I think that he would be walking into a place that is overvalued? And if he were to ever try and sell it, he could potentially be underwater. He wouldn't be able to rent it out. I had those conversations and said, I am not comfortable. Me, as your agent, am not comfortable allowing you to offer over a certain amount of where I think this is worth.
And that's
If he
another,
comes back and he says, I don't care, we write the offer.
Well, and that's another important part of the offer and negotiations is CMAs, comparative market analysis, is right. And again, another benefit to the real estate agent
Why
conversation.
don't we just call them MAs?
Market analysis? I know. Comparative market analysis is weird.
Well, we're comparing things, right? So I mean,
But it's a
hey,
market analysis.
Make it easy.
Analysis.
But basically what an agent will do, because they have the knowledge of that area and they have access to MLS, which is the listing service for not only active, but closed, expired, upcoming properties, that you can't see on certain websites that normal consumers go on. They have a little bit more information to then arm you to put the best offer in on that property.
And talking about egos and personalities, my biggest hang up on doing what we're doing now in the podcast was I'm very different. My personality is I love everyone, and I'm funny, and I try too much to have other people love me. When it comes to real estate, it's a freaking switch.
Spikes come out, baby.
I turn into someone else. I take my job very serious. I know what I'm doing, and I take pride in that.
Yep.
If you're on the other side of the transaction with me, we're going to start off nice, but then when things get real, I turn into a bulldog. It's just, it is what it is.
Because at the end of the
I
day,
do my job and I do my job well, and I'm a
Yeah.
different person. With my clients, I try to keep the funny cool, but when it comes to the industry standards, I will eat someone alive because that's just what I've become and who I am.
Well, and at the end of the day,
And that's different from ego. It's just,
Well, no,
I'm
but-
very competent and I know what I'm doing to the end of the table.
and it comes down on the talk of ego, and I say this all the time. It comes down to confidence versus cockiness, right? If you're confident, you know that what you're doing is in the best interest of your buyer,
Yes.
and you're knowing that you're using the knowledge that you have to do
Cockiness
that.
will get you in trouble.
Exactly. Cockiness is where you start writing offers that are just off the rails, that you're just like, yeah, I'm gonna get this, and then it doesn't. Now you overpromised.
I love how when I get the phone call, it's like, I wrote my offer because I did. I was like, are you calling me stupid?
Right.
I listed the house accordingly. Don't tell me about comps because I pulled them 5 times.
Well, and
Write
and
your damn
here's-
offer. We have 3 options. You're either going to accept, reject, or counter.
Yeah, and here's some. I saw this the other day, and it resonated with me. Right, when you talk about negotiations, right? The point. Let me ask you. Okay, so Charlie, if I say, what is the definition of the point of a negotiation?
It's to reach a mutual agreement.
Right, Charlie or Oscar, what about you?
I'm going to let you talk to you. Throw the number out first.
I don't need a number. Is that what your definition is?
I have a very vague definition of what negotiation is.
So I guess the point is,
I'm negotiating with you right now.
I guess the point is, right, whoever talks first
yeah,
loses. I get that.
Yeah.
But
I'm just joking with you.
the-
Yes, just get to a mutual agreement on,
Right.
on a certain subject.
So what I've run into, and you have, and you will for sure, is in real estate, people, because it is such a, at the end of the day, it's a business transaction, but people treat it as a personal transaction, right? Negotiations turn adversarial very, very quickly, and that is not the point of a negotiation.
You got to bring it back to facts every time.
Exactly. But the adversarial piece, I think, is where the ego gets involved.
Yeah.
100%.
And when you have an agent that is willing to look beyond that and articulate to the other party, hey, this is where we're at. This is why we are here. This isn't a personal thing. This isn't a vendetta.
fine
This is
line.
stats. This is
These are
facts.
facts.
This is the market. This is where we're at. And if you don't agree with it, that's fine. We'll move on. I'm cool with that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but reel him back in. Say, look, at the
yes.
beginning of the transaction, you told me this is what you wanted.
Yep.
I know he just called your house ugly.
Right.
Stop.
But the reason that's
You want us to get us here. They're
Yes.
offering what you want. Let that go.
the reason is I think it's important is because if you have an agent that's working with you, or a realtor that's working with you, that is adversarial in nature when it comes to negotiations, right? I look at it as high risk, high reward ish. Okay. But statistically, those deals won't get done. Right. You need somebody, and there's a reason. This is a theory of mine why I think those deals don't get done, because if you have an adversarial mindset going into negotiation, the one thing it does not allow you to be is creative.
Yes.
Yes.
And-
And it's not a theory. It's 100%. I'll back that up.
Thank you.
Yes.
So if you have somebody that is negotiation based and says, hey, we want to get to a mutually beneficial agreement with all parties,
Give or
what
take.
that allows is it allows that person to become creative, whether it's creative financing, whether it's, hey, we're not going to ask for this, but we're going to provide this. Hey, I'm going to make an extra phone call to make sure blah, 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 blah,
How about
whatever
we
it is.
credit this. We get a home warranty. I mean,
Yeah.
there's ways to think
Yes,
around
because
it.
people assume like, hey, I'm under contract for a house. I'm going to get to close. I think, oh man, and I know I'm the stat guy. This is in my brain. I don't know if it's accurate. So if you guys know the real statistic, let us know. But nationwide, I believe of every real estate transaction that goes under contract, on average, 68% actually make it to the closing table. Right? So that means
Sounds about
3 to 4 in 10, while you're in a contract with a well-qualified buyer, motivated seller, don't actually come to fruition. Right? I would say that part of that is because there's a lot of adversarial agents and egos that get in the way, or incompetence, whatever you want to say, during that offer negotiation process.
Sometimes you guys just hit the ball out of the park on just the lead into the next thing.
Like the Rockies yesterday. 11 runs in 2 innings, baby.
Yeah, right. But now, we got done with looking for the house. We did a CMA. We did negotiations, and now we're under contract, right? Yep. And Jameson, the reason that I say it's a good tie-in is because exactly what you said is so many people think that once your offer gets accepted and you are under contract, you're in the clear. But
that's the easy part,
right? But what a lot of people don't realize with these transactions is dates and deadlines come up, and these dates and deadlines are set forth in the contract in order to keep it moving forward.
Now we get into the meats and bones.
Exactly. So now we put in the offer, and on the buyer sheet.
Now you got money on the line.
Exactly.
Well, it becomes real for all parties.
Well,
involved,
and that's what I was going to say. Now the next step is,
I call it's an emotional investment on both parties.
Yeah. Well, and now we move into escrow, right? And we start talking about, hey, do you have the loan set?
I also hate that word.
Escrow?
I just hate the term.
Escrow, I hate it because they use it a lot on those shows. Oh, I put it in escrow. Colorado's not a state. That's not how we work here.
It's like, this is HGTV, bro. I'm sorry.
Yeah, stop. No. So
I raise hamsters. My budget is $2.5 million. Fuck off.
In essence, an escrow account is an account that it's an interest-bearing account.
It doesn't matter because we don't use it.
But
and if you're moving here from another state, your state's stupid if they do.
That's where we put our earnest money, and that's where it starts and ends.
Yes, exactly.
Outside of that, we're a mortgage state.
Yep.
And we get the contract accepted. Then we got up to 3 days to turn in earnest money. It goes into an escrow account. Now that money says, I am serious about this transaction. If I default over something not of my fault, you keep my money.
Yep.
And now if I pull out...
It's skin in the game.
Yeah, I have skin in the game. 100%. Take it off the market. Yep. The seller's saying, okay, I'm going to go with your offer. Put some skin in the game. Well, here's 1% of the purchase price, typically. $600,000, $6,000. Goes in an escrow account. That money is always yours. At closing, it goes back to you. So you either use it in the transaction so you don't come up with an extra $6,000, or that money could go back in your pocket. But it allows the seller to say, okay, I'm going to take my house off the market. I'm going to let you do your due diligence. Every buyer has the option to do their due diligence, whether they have a date for it or not, to inspect the home, make sure everything's up to par, and say, I want it. It appraises. Let's keep going.
And that's honestly that all of this that's about to come, the next couple steps, all are pertaining to the contract, right? And basically what happens once you're under contract and you start going through, like Oscar said, earnest money is the first thing. You have to provide the seller with, as a buyer, you have to provide the seller with good faith. Hey, I have some money up front. We're under contract. We want to move forward, right? And then there are dates and deadlines set out in that contract, and Oscar just touched on it. And one of the first big ones that comes up is going to be an inspection, right?
But there's documents, right? The seller has to provide the seller's property disclosure, the square footage disclosure, the source of water. If it's on before 1978, July 1st, there was lead-based paint disclosure, and there is maybe some HOA stuff.
Yeah.
So they have to provide you at their best knowledge.
And the world's stupidest deadline. Most stupidest deadline. Dumbest deadline. Most pointless deadline. I still don't understand why we have it. It's the due diligence documents.
Yeah.
I hate that shit. I hate it. I hate it, bro.
Right?
I hate it.
I get you want to cross all T's and dot I's, but when you start asking me,
like, has anybody
if the
ever...
seller has warranties or they want,
dude. Well, here's why I have a problem with it.
They want 12 months of their electric bill. It's like,
here's why I have a problem with it. If you're buying a 5-acre property, okay, and you need to verify the meets and bounds and the property lines and blah, 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 blah.
Talk to your local agency if he understands what meets and bounds are.
All of that is covered if the lender or title requires an ILC survey, right?
And if another one, ask your agent if he understands the ILCs.
Right. If it's a well.
Improvement location certificate, by the way.
Yeah. If it's a well, then that is also required as an inspection item. If there's a well, there's probably a septic, and there's going to be a septic certificate that has to be recorded. There has to be a title transfer for the septic system. Like, there's all these different things The due diligence drives me crazy because I've actually
It gives them the opportunity to ask for bullshit.
Dude, I've gotten yelled at because somebody goes, all you have is the warranty information that's taped to the fucking HVAC and water heater.
Yes.
Yeah, because nobody else keeps that shit. I don't
Because
have-
everybody keeps that
Come
fucking
on,
drawer
dude.
that they have all their warranties of all
Like,
their appliances that they
seriously.
don't ever look at and they probably throw
Like,
away after the
here's-
30 years.
Hey, here's how the garage door opener works. Here's 18 pages of a user manual. Oh, you don't
You
have
can
that?
Google
I'm
most of that
walking
crap.
away.
Yes.
The stuff
Yes.
that okay, maybe the
Drives me crazy.
consumer wants to be maybe the consumer is very detail oriented and wants 6 months of Excel bills. That drives me crazy too, but I can understand that.
Yes.
You know
But-
what, though?
Or
You
they
asked
just
for
bought the
that?
house 2 years ago.
Yeah.
They may have blueprints, they may have builder stuff. I get that. But once you start asking for ridiculous shit that
Dude, I don't care if my GE
They don't have it.
oven
I'm sorry.
doesn't have the 2-year warranty paperwork.
plus
I'm
with
sorry.
an email that goes away.
Right.
My TC says, buyer doesn't have any of this. Here you go.
Right. And so
and it's done.
2 clean contracts. This is something that I put in mine. Seller's written what I put? Acknowledgement that they do not have whatever is sufficient.
Done.
Cool. Hey,
I like
this
it.
is all we have. All right, cool.
You know, they're asking for all this stuff, but he knows that you may not have it.
Yep.
Right.
We're done.
Well, and then
Email takes care of that.
something that I want to let people know about too is because a lot of the time people go under contract, especially first-time home buyers that aren't familiar with the process, and when they get into an inspection, especially nowadays, that's something that you also have to plan for to pay, right? And that's when you go into it, that's not something that you think about. Oh yeah, I got my pre-approval. This is what I'm going to pay up front, but inspections, depending on whether you want a sewer scope, whether you want radon testing, they can go anywhere from $800 to $1,300.
We'll start at 300. I know some companies. They'll do a general inspection under 2,000 square feet. They'll go check out the foundation all the way to the roof and everything in between. Sewer scopes under $100. Radon testing is under $130. And then it goes up from there. They'll do infrared scanning, and depending on who you're working with. Speaking of payments up front, I just want to touch on, it's a little blurred space in real estate. You're not going to pay your buyer's agent anything out of pocket. You're just not. He's going to get paid on the negotiated fee that the listing agent has already talked to the seller, and that's what you're going to get paid. If your agent says you're not paying anything, that's bullshit, because you're taking the money into the game. So if he's disclosed all of that, yes, as a buyer, you're putting in the money. The seller has already dictated what he's going to pay the buyer's agent. Period.
That is a
Whether
very
you
important
have
point.
an agreement with him on your buyer's agency that differs, that's between you and that agent. But out of pocket, you're not going to pay a buyer's agent. Why not get proper representation?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think the other important piece of this whole, the due diligence side of where we're at, right, with the going under on the dates and deadlines, you guys got to remember there's 3 really big points of, I guess 2, negotiation, right? First one being the inspection, right? How do you negotiate repairs versus concessions? Being creative in that world, right? Second
And
one,
if you're that agent still writing credits on the inspection objection, I'm going to punch you in the face.
what do you mean?
That doesn't go on the inspection. That goes on an amend if you're going to give credit for anything.
Wait, what?
If you're going to give credit for inspection items,
Yep.
first of all, you can't give them money out of pocket, so you put it as a credit, and it's going to go for down payment.
Yes.
Or
Yeah,
closing
yeah,
costs.
yeah.
It does not belong in the objection or resolution. It belongs in an amend.
So I've also had that vary based on the lender, because I've done both, and I've had some lenders say, "Hey, we want this in an amend contract under additional provisions," and I've had other lenders say, "As long as it's in resolution as a dollar amount and you send us that, then we're good."
Per contracts, Colorado state law, it doesn't belong on the resolution or the objection. Just fact check me on that.
Boom.
I might.
And the way
I
you
might
write
later.
and the way you write the objection is not what you want. It's what you find defective.
Oh no,
on the home.
objection. I agree. Resolution though.
The resolution, you say we're going to do all these things. If you agree on a price amount, it goes on an amend. Seller agrees to credit the buyer X amount of dollars. The verbiage on that is very important because the lender's going to see the amend.
Correct. But
'Cause everything
in
needs to be
the
on the HUD.
resolution, it does say that if there's, I'll look it up. But yes,
I was about to say,
Underwriters
I like
don't
this.
want to see that
no,
you're
I get it.
putting money
I
in.
know what you're saying. But under there, it does say that under the resolution, it does need to go to the lender to verify any sort of credits.
And 80% of lenders don't want to see that fucking document.
Yeah.
They really don't.
Just saying. That's,
Well,
yeah.
and then again, we talk about inspection, right? And then following that, the next step that we walk into is more based around your financing, right? So after that, as a buyer, you're going to have to provide them with, if you're not paying cash, a new loan and prove to them, hey, I have acquired this loan. I have done what I needed to do to secure the financing. And something that a lot of people don't really think about, and even for me, being newer in the industry, is not something that I was really privy to before doing some offers, is an appraisal, right? And a lot of people don't realize that there's something called an appraisal gap, right? And basically what an appraisal is after you secure that financing and your lender says, yeah, this is how much money we're going to give you. Basically, the lender will send somebody out to the property to then assess the value of the home. And what that does is, let's say now you're in a market like Colorado, where prices are elevated and everybody wants to get the top dollar for their property, which as they should. But what ends up happening now is you have a discrepancy between the listing price and what the home is actually valued at. And that is what is called an appraisal gap. And what a lot of people don't know is that let's say you come in and you're approved for $420,000, and that's your offer is $413, right? But the appraisal comes in, and now they say, hey, this is actually worth $420.
400.
400. You are now going to have to, out of pocket, cover the difference between $400,000 and your offer of $412,000. Mm-hmm.
Now, let me touch on that. The only time you have to really worry about it if it comes under. Mm-hmm. As a buyer's agent, the appraisal comes in at $450.
Yeah. Good for you.
You paid for that.
Instant equity, baby.
Yeah, you pay for that appraisal.
Refinance it as soon as you can. Take that money out.
Anything.
Mm-hmm.
Pay your bills. The listing agent comes back and says, hey, how's appraisal? All he needs to know is it appraised, because we move forward.
Appraise that value.
Appraise that value. That's all. It's your document. You paid for it. It's yours. You could say, I don't want you to release it to anybody. You don't have to. You paid for that. It's done. Now, it comes under. There's a few choices now. Mm-hmm. If you have written an appraisal gap into the additional provisions, then yes, you are going to have to come out of pocket. But if you have a straightforward offer, the lender's never going to lend above appraised value. Yes. So
they're never going to lend you more than what the house is, what they deem the house is worth.
Because it's their money, and that house is,
and they need it now.
Collateral.
J.G. Wentworth.
It's the home is the collateral, so they're not going to lend on something that's not worth it. Mm-hmm. So if the house comes back at $400 and you just wrote an offer and it states in there that the house has to appraise for that much, mm-hmm. and the other listing agent says, hey, I've done my homework, it's going to appraise, and for some reason the appraiser comes back and says, I've compared apples to apples, this property is worth $400, the $13,000, now we got to negotiate.
Yep.
Unless it's in the additional provision, we come back and we're like, hey, Mr. Homeowner, your house is not worth $413. If you want to sell to me, I'm ready to still buy. Mm-hmm. If it's going to FHA, that appraisal sticks with that property. So now you have to drop it, so it's in his best interest to move forward.
Oscar,
and that's when a smart agent knows how to negotiate that.
And let me ask you a question. So let's say that is a situation, and you're a buyer, and that home comes in, and you get scared by that $12,000. Are you able, as the buyer, to use that to get out of your legally binding contract?
Depending if you wrote it into additional provisions or not. If you did not write it in, you could terminate.
Yep.
That is your
you can
right.
absolutely write offers and not include an appraisal gap, and if the seller accepts it, that's on them.
Yep. And as a negotiation standpoint, from the buyer's agent side, hey, they want $413, it's not going to appraise. I know that, but let's not bring that up. When it doesn't appraise, if it does, we move forward, no harm, no foul. You're still good with it? Yes. If it doesn't appraise and we're at $400, Mr. Seller, your house is only worth $400. You're going to get it at $400.
Yep.
It's a win-win for the buyer every time.
Yes.
Unless you really want that house, there's a bunch of offers behind you, and you're like, you know what? I have $50K in the bank I can play with. I'll pay an extra $13. I want this house. Then we write it in there. It says if the property, in case of a conservative appraisal and the property does not appraise for the amount, the buyer will bridge the gap of what it appraised to what the loan to value is, up to X amount. Yep. You have to have an X amount.
And the reason that I bring it up is a lot of people think that, especially for some home buyers, the second that you go under contract, you are legally bound and you have to see it through.
Nope.
But there
your
are
outs.
Exactly. There are outs in a contract for buyers, like the appraisal gap, like the inspection, and it's not an end all be all, right?
And it's not outs just to be out.
Exactly.
It's outs to protect that $6,000, $10,000, $25,000, whatever you put in as earnest money. That's our job, to make sure that earnest money comes back to you, and or we foresee and we move forward and we close.
Absolutely. And on that note, pre-closing, right? This is what everybody gets excited
Closing
about.
time.
Yeah, and I think that the big point of this, right, is once you're through, like during this whole process, I want to make this extremely clear to people. Do not fuck with your credit. Okay? Do not.
Don't show up to inspection
Do
in
not
a brand
fuck with
new
your credit.
car.
People, I'm telling you, I know it seems like I feel like
Sounds funny, but it's happened so many times.
I feel like I beat a dead horse with it, right?
No,
but I'm telling you, here's
It's like
here's,
these are
and
the
what do you
only
mean by don't
comedy
fuck with your
videos
credit?
you see online.
So, and this is what I'm going to say, okay? I'm going to say this as plainly as possible. If you have a question, and that question is this going to mess up my opportunity to buy this house?
Yes.
Then call your lender and
your
say,
realtor.
hey, lender, I'm going to buy a couch from American
please.
Furniture Warehouse. It's going to cost this amount. What should I do? The lender's going to say, are you buying it with your debit card or your credit card? Or are you opening up a line of credit? Give them that information, and they will tell you yes or no.
Don't call me, because I'm going to tell you no.
I'm gonna
because
if
every
you
time.
call us, I'm gonna say no. It's the equivalent of I asked mom, mom said no. I'm gonna go ask dad.
you're going to have a couch without a house.
Yes.
For the love of God, Mary, don't spend money for 30 days.
Yes, like I get it's exciting, it's great, but between under contract and closing, because you guys got to understand, and Charles is about to touch on this, the lenders will verify up to 3 days before closing.
They will do a credit check.
Oh, and then by the way, they'll
Soft
also
pull.
check after you close.
If the underwriter sees that there's been a credit inquiry
Yep.
at American Furniture, at Douglas Ford or whatever,
Like I get it, the dude has tigers in his showroom.
Show
I
me that
understand.
car that
doesn't
you
mean
just
you need a
bought.
love seat.
Yep.
yeah, don't mess with the credit. What does that mean? Don't finance anything. Don't do any big purchases. Don't mess with your banking. If the underwriter sees and they'll do a verification of deposit prior to closing, and you just pulled $3,000 out, what would you do with that? And it's not them being nosy. It's them wanting to make sure on the secondary market that you've done everything
Yes.
that you are
Protecting
able,
their asset.
Yeah, you're able to buy, because there is a secondary market in real estate. Banks.
But don't do me a favor. Don't ask like your mom or your grandmother or your neighbor, hey, should I buy this before I close on my house? Call
Your
your
lender.
mother.
Good rule of
fucking
no.
lender.
Good rule of thumb. Don't buy any big things and or put anything on credit while you're buying a house.
Yes.
Don't do that to yourself, because it's to yourself. We're going to try everything in our power to make it work, even if you do, but it's just going to make headaches for you.
Well, and on that note too, is something that's important that I don't think a lot of people recognize as well is you have the ability to do a final walkthrough, and in that way, let's say you went through inspection and you said, hey, we want you to fix this. You have the right to walk through and see if they satiated that part of the contract and the agreement that you had with them, and look at the repairs that should have been done.
Final walkthrough is
yeah.
to make sure the house is in the same condition as when you saw it, and if there was any repairs that you asked for in inspection, they've been completed, and that they haven't removed shit from the property that's supposed to be in the property when you buy it.
Yeah, you
which
can do
are
a whole
inclusions.
You can do a whole episode on inclusions
Yes.
and yes.
Back in the
Personal
day when
property.
we were doing short sales, people were taking cabinets.
Yeah.
Because they were pissed that the bank is about to take their house. I'm
Yep.
going to take these cabinets. What are you going to do with them? I don't care. They're mine.
Yep. 100%. But once you get through all of that, right? And guys,
Or
thank
you
you
walk
for
through it and it's, why the hell is there a gaping hole in the wall? Okay, fix it.
Steve get angry.
Whose dead body is this?
Yeah. What the hell's going on here? Why'd you move in this? Yeah. It's,
Why is the dog still here?
Yeah.
You have the right as a buyer to then question certain elements. Granted, do it in good faith. Don't just start going in and be like, hey, the fiber on the carpet over here is a little bit more moved than it was last time. Do it in good
The
faith for
shag
both
in
parties.
the carpet's not as shaggy. Don't do that.
Yes, especially with homes here in Colorado. I don't know what it is. Shag carpet was a thing.
Yeah,
Dude, we were randy, baby.
it's probably the reason we were the first to legalize marijuana. Honestly.
Probably.
We had dice in the mirror. Come on.
Right?
Shag wagon. My dad had one.
Now, once you get through everything, you do your
van.
final walkthrough. You've provided either the wiring information, the loan information to the title company. Now,
I'm gonna stop you right there.
Go for it.
When it comes to title and wire information, you can email pertinent information, but if you can, call them, get wire information and your wire
Over the
information
phone.
to title over the phone.
Yes.
It's the most secure. There's been too many breach in emails. Don't email Social Security or anything like that. Shit could go south. Call the title company.
Yep.
Get the wire instructions, because once that money's over, the money's over. And if you wired it somewhere else, it's going to be hard to get it back. And you know what? The recourse is pretty short on that.
And I think it's episode 19 or 20 that we had Lauren Avery Collins on here.
Yep.
She talked about that in detail, how bad wire fraud is when it comes to closing. Always talk to the company on the phone. Never communicate via email. People are way too good now at faking things and making it look a certain way. And like Oscar said, at the end of the day, if you fall for that, it is on you. It's your responsibility. Nobody's going to coddle you and say, "Oh no."
$150,000 out the door.
Exactly. That's all it is just out the door.
Good luck with the FDIC on that one.
But now that we've gone through all of that, we've negotiated, we looked at inspection, we talked about appraisals. Now comes the time that everybody celebrates. And Oscar, what is it? Starts with a C. What does everybody want to see?
Closing time. You go to the closing table. If everything went well, you're going to see the seller. Seller's going to be happy. They're going to divulge shit at the table that you probably don't want to hear, and everybody's happy. Or you're in a separate room because you had it out with the seller in the separate closings. Either way, it's a good time.
Yep.
You're going to get the keys, but there's a lot of documents you got to go over. The T1000 real property disclosure is something that they send out back to the consumer. It's a random shoot whether they do it or not, but if you don't fill it out the same, they will fine you up to $35 every time you don't send it back. Your agent should tell you this is the one you keep in front. It's going to tell you what condition the property was in, what was included in the property, what interest rate you got, blah, blah, blah.
Basically, they want to make sure you don't transfer a house with like a 67 Chevelle.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Yeah.
Not Chevelle, but a Corvette. There was a Corvette. You could negotiate anything in real estate. You could put it in the damn contract if you want. The underwriter doesn't want to see it, but in the real estate standpoint, they don't give a shit. There was a 67 Corvette in the garage, and they were like, I want it. Put it in the contract. I was like, not a good idea. You're getting financing. But they ended up negotiating, and they ended up getting the car.
Nice.
So everything.
But if you don't disclose it, that's what the TD1000
disclose
is for.
everything.
Yes.
As an agent, you're watching this. Disclosure.
Yep.
Disclosure. Disclosure. Disclose everything. Cover your ass.
Well, and again, guys, thanks for sticking with us and going through it. And I know this one was a little bit more freeform, this episode, but it is very pertinent to what's going on right now in the market. And we just want to make sure that everybody is as prepared as possible. So again, please check out the channel. Feel free to download our free PDF that is a buyer's guide. We also
I still have shit to say.
we still have we also have a seller's guide on there. So everything in
I'll have mine
detail
out this week.
that we went on with buyers, we have the same thing on the seller side. And in the future, if you guys want to see it, let us know, and we'll do the same kind of episode for that.
Yes.
But it is. We thought that this was very important to kind of give people the ability to access as the market starts to pick up across the country. So with that being said, guys, phenomenal episode. But let's go ahead and give a riff on a new riff.
Can I do my one rock takeaway?
Excuse me. I forgot.
This is
about
what
that.
happens.
I'm usually the one that forgets
I
that.
took a week off.
This is what happens when we take a week off.
I took a week
ladies
off.
and gentlemen.
So,
We just
my one
forget
rock takeaway
the
from
whole structure of the show.
It falls the hell apart. So my biggest thing, my one rock takeaway is no one is exempt from the process. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter who you are. Just follow the process. We're not trying to screw you. We're not trying to pull wool over your eyes. The process is the process. Understand that we're doing it because it's going to benefit you in the long run. No one's exempt from it. I don't care who you are.
It is what it is.
Just go with the process. Get to the closing table. Everybody's happy.
I like it. J-Mo.
Set your ego aside. It's a business transaction. It's what it is. And the quicker people are able to rectify that in their brain, the easier the transaction tends to go, and the more beneficial that transaction is to all parties involved, including seller, buyer, it doesn't matter, is once you put your ego aside and realize I'm selling something to somebody else and there's negotiations and it's not personal, go smoother.
A good agent will ask you what you want up front, set expectations, and when the ego starts coming out, we'll reel you back in and say, hey, remember 10 days ago you said this is what you wanted. We could still get there. Regardless of what's going on right now, let's dial it back. This is the end game for us.
That was my entire week.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
My one rock takeaway out of all of this is honestly on par with both of you guys. It's vulnerability. Is be willing to be open with your agent, with your lender,
It's only gonna help you.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, all the information you disclose legally cannot be shared, but will only benefit you in the future. So try to be open and vulnerable with your agent and your lender because it's just going to help you.
It's only going to set you up for success in the long run.
100%. 100%. Well, please excuse the fuck out of me. I jumped to it early because I was excited.
Producer. Here, come
Right?
on.
I was excited about it. I mean, look at the bottle. It's just, even now that it's going lower, I still like the
sexy.
bottle.
Do you need a minute with that
Sleek.
bottle?
Yeah, I might have to. I don't know.
No,
I mean, once you go, never mind.
the juice inside is good. I'm going to go ahead and push forward on this one. The juice inside is great. I mean, this amber color is darker than what I thought it was going to be. I thought the whole design of this bottle and
Darkened it a little bit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the coloring is awesome. The taste is awesome. I'm going to let you guys talk about the flavoring because obviously my Dorito flavoring didn't fucking mesh with everybody.
Perfect. It's perfect.
But
Chase
it
this
was a
with
good bottle for me.
with Mountain Dew Code Red, apparently.
Oh, hell no.
While playing video games till 12 o'clock.
One, I'm not a gamer. Two, Mountain Dew.
Don't let Oscar tell you he's not a gamer. He plays poker every night on his VR.
Yeah.
That's not a gamer.
That is absolutely
You're
the
gaming,
definition of a gamer.
You're gaming,
You were
bro.
playing a game for elongated a time period.
Poker, though.
Is it virtual?
Still a game.
Only because I bought an Oculus.
Negotiations, people. Negotiations.
I am a gamer. Fuck.
I do think that this opened up throughout the episode for sure. And
Kind of like our hearts.
I don't know, man. This last week.
hope
last
my-
week
No,
feels
no,
like-
my heart is ice cold.
Yeah,
right now.
after this last week.
I'm not
But,
letting anybody in.
the burn that Oscar talked about at the beginning, 100% for me gives away, and I'm definitely getting more of those fruity notes on the nose right up front. As far as the burn as you're sipping it, it does disseminate. It does go away as you get a little bit more, and you're drinking it as a good bourbon should. I will say though, the complexity did not
Leaves a
evolve.
little bit to be desired.
Yeah.
But it didn't dissipate, though.
No.
No.
It was consistent across the board. You know, for me, the flavoring was there. It mellowed out so I could taste more of the fruits, but it kind of transitioned into the maple
Yeah.
part of it. It was a good maple.
Almost
finish.
a little bit like a sweet maple. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and not like that Breckenridge that we were like, it's in
too
your face.
syrupy,
It was really good. It opened up and it lent itself to maybe old fashions and whatnot. I mean,
Yes.
what was the cost of this?
$49.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
yeah, 100%. 100%.
Grab that.
Their
drink
single
it.
barrel select runs 80.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
I can
and I think that one's
definitely
aged 7 years.
I
So,
will say at the end, I'm very surprised that this is a high rye mash bill.
It wasn't. It didn't have the spice like a rye.
No.
No.
Not at
No,
all.
the spice is there, but 100% gives way to that sweetness at the beginning.
And I think the spice is more of that burn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Other than
100%.
that, it's smooth.
All right. So let's give it the rock rating. Who wants to start it? I'll start it. I am gonna give this one a 4.5, only because, again, as we drink more, as we see prices, the burn up front, if you're not used to bourbon, is going to scare you away from it immediately. And
It's
I
gonna
feel
bother
like,
you the whole time you're drinking it.
I feel like that's going to set a precedent in your mind that you may not be able to enjoy it as neat as you would.
Drop
And
an
then,
ice cube in it. It'll
yes,
go away.
yeah, and
Easy.
That's where I would say I think I'm starting to develop a category, right? And I think that 4 to 5.5, 6 rating is definitely for those bourbons that need some kind of an open, some kind of a glass, some
Drop of water,
ice,
ice, something. Yeah.
Exactly. And this one is definitely one of them. As it has sat here and opened, the flavor 100% opened up a little bit more. That burn dissipated, but again, based on the other bourbons that we've had around this price point, that's why I'm going to give it a 4.5, just because the complexity is not there for me.
Taste wise, I think it's good. Price wise, it's decent. If I see it, I'll pick it up. I'll give it solid 5. For price, complexity is there. The burn doesn't go away, but I like that burn.
Yeah.
So if I have to round it, I'm gonna give it a 5. It feels personal taste. I give it a 4. Easy. It's a good bourbon. I liked it.
Yeah, I think we're getting to the point where we've tasted some really good bourbons,
Yeah.
so it's getting harder and harder to rate, to kind of figure out like, where we're at. Like, what is this in comparison to, Uncle Nearest versus the Breckenridge versus
Smoke Wagon.
the Smoke Wagon, right? Like, it's tough, right? So I agree. I'll probably go in between both of you guys, like 4.75, somewhere around there. I think the drinking it neat, because I'm a bourbon drinker, is super easy. Like, I could drink this neat all day long.
If you bring this over to the house, we're gonna kill it.
Yeah, if I'm giving it to somebody who's maybe never tried bourbon or only drinks old fashions, a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
I think it does have some. It's more burn than complexity.
Yep.
But if you can get past the burn, the sweetness of it allows you to be able to say, I could drink this.
This
neat.
is a veteran
You know what I mean?
veteran bourbon drinker's
Yes.
bottle.
Yes, agreed.
It's not a beginner bottle.
Yeah,
No.
and I can
By any
definitely. I want to give them more credit where credit's due, and
It's
you
a
know,
great bottle.
Yeah,
I'll give them
it's-
that.
And
I
not
like
only that, but the whole thing, a new riff to an old tradition. I can taste it.
Yep.
You can definitely.
It's not
tell.
a traditional Kentucky bourbon.
Yeah.
No.
Especially 4
rye.
years
Yeah.
in high rye.
At 4 years.
It's not.
Absolutely.
At 4 years, I'm gonna start.
This,
looking
you know what
and-
this
and
is
seeing
like
that-
to me is, and we really need a graphic of where we rated everything. It's very similar to the Blue Note
Yes.
Yes.
Crossroads.
Yes.
Right, where it's traditional but not traditional. It has a
Yes.
little bit more sweetness, easily drinkable. I think we rated that one like a 4, 4.5 also. I think this
What
fits in
proof is
that
this?
category. Oh, that's a good
I think it's
question.
100.
If it's 100, it has a lot of flavor for 100.
And that's what I was saying is,
And I think
you
that's
can-
why I compare it to the Blue Note, because the Blue
Yeah.
Note was also 100.
Yeah.
So if you have a 50% bottle, bottle and bond, which has to be 50%, obviously, right?
Yep.
And then age 4 years, it's good.
100%.
Two of my
I
favorite
really-
above hundreds, Booker's
Yep.
and Copper Sky.
Yeah, Copper Sky. Yeah.
It just they do wonders with the high proofing.
Yes.
Booker's is
And-
127, 129 proof. Copper Sky could go up to
Between-
147 proof.
Between the high proofing and the high rye
It's
mash
hard
build,
to do this.
I
by the
that's
way.
what I was going to say. I can 100% see how, they're what people would call quote unquote gimmick of the only copper, and then also the non-chilled filtration. I can taste it. You can definitely tell what
Well,
this
and I think
what
I would have
adds.
thought it was 93 proof. 92
It's also
proof,
it's also
the
credit
standard right
because
at around that.
the way I look at it, right, is anything that's bottled in bond has to be done very specifically.
Yes.
Right.
Any high proof
So
that's
in
good has to be
order,
very specific.
but bottled in bond specifically, in order to make a bottled in bond rye, for example, unique.
Yep.
You got to add something, whether it's the no chill, whether it's the copper, whether it's the aquifer, whatever it is, right? They made something that is regulated.
Yep.
So in and of itself should be similar across the board, and they made it stand out. So I give it credit to that.
100%. 100%. Well, guys, awesome episode. I'm so happy to be back with you guys. Honestly, it felt like a month
It
and a
was
half.
such a
that we
long
were off.
week, bro.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
Like
it
a
was such
month
a long
and a half,
week.
man.
I know, dude. I know. I was like having the podcast in my head the week that we didn't do it.
I was
I was
at
like,
the principal's
man,
office the other night.
you know what I'm saying?
Legit.
Yeah, it was
But
good. It was good.
It's been a great episode. Hopefully, you guys got something from it. Thank you for joining us
Where
again.
do they find us again?
You can find us at Living in Colorado, The Mile High Perspective on YouTube, and you can get in contact with us, RESOTR at The Mile High Perspective, or give us a ring at
303-578-0263.
I like it.
And I think we all have socials,
yes.
right?
Across
Oscar?
the board, Oscar the Realtor or OscarTheRealtor.com.
I am The Lifting Agent or That Lifting Agent on TikTok and Instagram.
So find him in the gym, working on his fitness like Fergie,
You can find me in the club.
right? If you guys want to find me, the Colorado Real Estate Guy, Instagram, TikTok, obviously Facebook's Jameson Amaros.
The guy.
But I am the Colorado Real Estate Guy.
The
guy.
Colorado Real Estate
The
guy.
The guy.
On that note, thank you guys for another awesome
appreciate it, guys.
episode. We'll catch you
We'll
later.
see you next week.
Later,
Deuces.
guys.
Deuces.
Cheers.
Cheers.